Morning to the folks on Facebook. Morning to Alison Boyce, Kevin Springer, Carol Myers. Morning. Yes, Carol, I'm back on Facebook. Flo really putting me through the ringer. Yeah, so I have to rely on the MiFi device until they sort out. Yeah, but they're testing my patience, and I think I'll give them back their modem and switch to a new provider. Yeah, and I'm not going through this. I pay them too much money every month. Franklin Jarup, good morning. Hazel Alain, morning to you. Deborah Duranti, Angela Kati, morning. Kathian Let Yearwood, good morning to you. Kathian says, glad to have you. You're back on the live. Yeah, I've been back. I've been on YouTube. Unfortunately, so the Facebook people won't get in the live. But yeah. Eleanor Leslie Graham, good morning. Morning, Joy. Good morning to His Excellency Nigel Connor, President of Pleasantville, and First Lady Mauricia Keegan. Morning, Jen. John Edwards, good morning. Michael Lezama, morning. Yes, Facebook is up. Anthony Perry, good morning. Who do I have on YouTube? Let me see. Morning, Roxanne. Roxanne brought out the brooms and she was dancing to that that little ditty I was playing there just now. Yeah, Roxanne. I mean, the heat these days is ridiculous. Yesterday was horrible. Pauline Buckmeyer, good morning. Gerald Pascal Manswell, morning to you. Arlene Lewis, Gillan Jackson, morning. G.G. Wall, morning to you. Janice Hamlet, morning. Glenn Richardson. Selma Lashley, good morning. Shedley Jimenez, J. Dimple, 66, morning. Rukmin Gangadine, good morning. Glenn Richardson is also on this side. Yeah, well, I know a lot of people would not have been aware that I was coming on this morning, but yesterday I had to um, postpone the live to today again because of these internet issues I've been having for the last week and some with Flow. Yeah. So if they don't send out their technician, well, we'll deal with that. So let me see here. I know, well, Paulina is joining us from Florida, and while I was there, the heat there was kind of different too. Yes, Jerry, what's to give you the TPP headache? I was just in a little comment exchange there with JB Harper from Tobago People Party, that group, and he's telling me Watson Duke's PNM problem. No, if he's alleging Watson is now PNM. Well, if that's the case, that's a big headache for Farley because he now has to fight Watson, Dr. Rowley, Ansel Dennis, and soon enough he'll have to fight charges too. That's thing ain't looking good for Farley at all. Radiant Gonzalez, Salem, good morning. Morning, Annette Baird. Charmaine Bernard, good morning. Right. So good morning to Margaret Thomas. Good morning to you. Yeah. Yeah, Jen. Right. So it is 6:39. Let me get into it. So those who are not aware, who weren't aware that we were having the live this morning, they will I guess they will have to catch it later. So let me just get straight into it. So there's a couple of things as usual I wanted to touch on this morning, but I have to play a little clip from, the well, he's not the quintessential, but actually, yeah, I'm playing a clip from the quintessential clown, Rudolph Munilal too, but the other one now, the Doglaya, so I'll forgive me, I know I don't like to hear that man, I don't like to hear him either, but sometimes they say things that must be responded to, so forgive me. Right, so let me start with Rudolph Munilal, the man who, I understand that Anita Haynes got married over the weekend. In fact, I saw some photos. Congratulations to her. I know there may be some persons in the ranks of the UNC who are disappointed. I won't say why. If all you want to know why, please visit the page of UNC Cabal and you will see what I'm talking about, right? But I will not speak of that here. But I understand certain persons were not invited. Again, I'm going based on what UNC Cabal would have reported, that Dr. Munilal perhaps was one of those who wasn't invited. And, yeah, and I'm not too sure if Sushila was invited either. And so they may be toting some feelings. So I said, no, don't vote. Well, I don't know what I could do in this case. I cannot vote. You can't vote for nothing. I have no election, so what I could do is vote. If in fact it is so that they were not invited. Right? But hey, it is what it is. So again, congratulations to Anita Haynes. Well, at least I did one thing right. But we will see where that goes. I also saw yesterday, I think I read where the newly minted mayor of Siparia, one Dudnat Meru, made an attempt to access I think it's the mayor's fund, and both UNC, interesting, UNC and PNM members of council came together and voted against him. So he was not able to enjoy the spoils of the mayor's fund. You see, when we say they love money bad, you're now coming, you just become mayor. Yes, this is something you've wanted for years and years and years. You wanted to be chairman of the corporation before they became a borough, right? Till the last time in 2019, when it is he was appointed neither chairman nor deputy chairman. I have it on good authority that he was griping to people. Look how long I serve in this party. How much I doing for this party, and up to I can't even get a vice chairmanship. Yeah, the man was real tooted. He was real vexed. So how did he go from not being worthy in 2019, 4 years ago, to not being worthy of even being a vice chairman? to today, he is the mayor of Siparia. What happened in that 4 years that all of a sudden elevated Mr. Meru's status such that the leadership felt that he was the best man to lead the corporation, when for years that was not the case. We've heard claims that he may have certain things holding over the head of the leadership of the UNC. I don't know. That is what has been reported. And he was able to use that as leverage, threatening for well. I don't know. It is alleged that that certain threats were made, that if he wasn't given the position, that he would reveal the real. And it was on this occasion that the decision was taken to make him the mayor, the first mayor of Siparia. I wouldn't be surprised if that was in fact the case. Because I too confused, unless of course the political leader of the UNC was so proud of the display of Mr. Meru, because there have been a lot of videos of Mayor Meru all over the place. We saw that video clip with him where he had the interaction with the police officer, the disrespectful interaction, where he was leading a protest to set fire to tires to protest the condition of the roads and so on. And when the police came and told him you can't do that and whatnot and stuff, and he was issuing threats against the police officer. That is the kind of behavior that would earn you the position of mayor if you are a supporter of that party, it seems. So I don't know if it was that video or the video where Mr. Meru was seen under somebody's house having a cuss out with the occupants of the home, where he was being accused of all manner of wrongdoings by the homeowner. Well, I didn't hear him cursing, but the homeowner real cussing out. So that too is on UNC Cabal's Facebook page. So I don't know if it is those types of behavior that lead a court site, because we know she loves social media. She loves Facebook. In fact, that is how the UNC gauges the support that they have based on Facebook comments and Facebook posts. That is why they thought they were going to do so well on August 14th, only to be disappointed. That is why they thought they would have won the 2020 general election again, only to be disappointed. So that is the scientific methodology that they use in order to determine their political fortunes. Go on Facebook and see how much people cussing how the PNM and who don't like Rowley and how much Hines must go and all of that. Now continue to do that. That makes sense. Yeah. So, but I leave that there. All right. I just thought I would mention that you know coming and already what you want to go in the mayor's fund to do? Take out money to do what? To pay for what? To fix road? Well, no. I'm glad that he's the mayor. Because all the roads, the secondary roads that were supposed to be paved by the corporation that wasn't paved, that he wanted to burn tire for and protest. No, when it's paved, let me see what he's going to do. Let me see if as mayor, with the responsibility for the corporation, who's under whose charge it falls to pave these roads. Let me see if it is now as mayor you're going to go out and protest and burn tire. To protest to yourself? Well, that's what I could do. Let me see if it is you're going to do that, not do that. Show the people now that you want foolishness all the time. Let them see. When road and paving now, you ain't coming out and your hand and just say, call a press conference now. You wouldn't do that. You know why? Because it's basically you'll be calling to chastise yourself and the corporation. So people will now understand where the power lay in terms of and whose responsibility it was to pave those roads. They will see now that you want dotishness, playing smart with foolishness, when you have nothing to say now when the road's in a bad condition because you're responsible for it. You see, karma is well, you know the rest. Let me play Munilal. That's a little snippet of Munilal. I'd really like to hear him either. But I was looking at the news last night and I heard him say something that, again, I always say if hypocrisy was a party, it would be there. Yeah? And from time to time, they come and reinforce that. And this is yet another example of such. So let me play this for you.
This senseless, mindless murder of the children. We cannot dismiss it and say, well, their parents or grandparents or tanti or nenen may be involved in something. Killing children is wrong. And apart from Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the Opposition United National Congress, there is no outrage. And this morning, I want to indicate that I am outraged that there is no outrage, where children have been murdered in this fashion. I'm outraged that there is no outrage. And you look at the society. What is the business community saying about this? What the different civil organizations, the faith-based organizations, and I can't help but feel, is it because those children were in a particular community? Is it because they are in a lower income, working class community? Had it been elsewhere, they would have called, groups in this country would have been calling for citizens to drive on the road with their lights on during the day. They may have been calling upon us to lie down in front of Parliament and circle the Parliament with us lying on the ground. But is it because these are working class, poor people, the children themselves, of a particular class? That is why I'm so outraged that this incident has led to silence by key stakeholders in the community. People who talk at the drop of a hat, organizations that churn out press releases almost every day. They say nothing. It was only Mrs. Prasad Bisasa and the United National Congress that spoke out on this matter. And Mrs. Prasad Bisasa has a crime plan that she has been articulating, not today, for years on our Monday night platforms and various other fora where she has been speaking about dealing with this matter. And while this is happening, Minister Hines is completely asleep. And as I said, even when he's awake, his mind is asleep because he's talking about wait for the story. There is no story. Children have been murdered, and it is the role of law enforcement and government to get to the bottom of it. That indicate that we don't have motive, we don't know what's happening. That is the sad state of affairs that we find ourselves in. When we look at the incidents of crime, are you as members of the press, members of the national community, noticing people are holding up KFC delivery vans and thieving chicken and chips?
Yeah, that's Munila there, right? As I said before, if hypocrisy was a party, it would be that party. Yeah? That he is outraged that there is no outrage over that unfortunate incident that took place last week where 4 young children lost their lives. Right? I seem to recall, they say, I don't want to play tit for tat, right? But the thing about it is, hypocrisy is a hell of a thing. I recall when they were in office between 2010 to 2015, and this was a crime that has stayed with me because it was a heinous one indeed. I don't know if you all recall the family that went missing in Paria, yeah, up in Blanchisseur's side up there, where several members of the family were murdered. I can't remember. I think it was the grandfather. I think, if memory serves me correctly, I know they found the grandmother's body buried, her daughter's body buried, and her grandchild, who was just a few months old, child's skull was cracked, bashed in, right? And they cleared them. And there were, I think, two teenage girls, who were held captive by the murderer and accomplices in a shack or shed somewhere up in the bush. And when the girls were found by the police, they would have reported that while they were being held hostage in this shack, that they were raped repeatedly on a daily basis by this individual, who, to date, is yet to have his matter heard. I think there was the preliminary inquiry and so on, but he has not, to the best of my recollection and knowledge, has not yet faced a full trial in the assizes. That happened under them. Little baby, skull crushed. What that little baby could have done to anybody, right? Skull crushed and buried. Was there outrage from Mr. Munila? Was he calling on the population? Was he outraged that there was no outrage over that incident? The 2 young people who were murdered on Duncan Street or one of Nelson Street or one of those, under them while Kamala was Prime Minister, and she went shedding crocodile tears when she went to visit the family. And as a result of that, they set up some police post on Duncan Street or something like that. Did Mr. Munila call for outrage? Was he outraged that there was no outrage in the killing of these 2 young people who were teenagers? Was he? But now you're vexed because it's outrage over this incident and making a claim that had it been, is it because of their social status, and had it been some other part of the country, things, you would have been outraged and people would have been around the Red House calling for people to lie down. You see, these people shameless. You're referencing the Keith Noel Committee, 137 Committee, that was led by Stephen Cadiz. That incident would have launched Stephen Cadiz' political career. Right? Remember, because I think they had dragged the coffin with the killing of, was it Edward Curry? I think Dr. Curry, who was beheaded, decapitated, and as a result of that, and then Keith Noel was Stephen Cadiz' employee, and when he was murdered, Stephen Cadiz started this movement, it's the Keith Noel 137 Committee or whatever, and then they started dragging coffin. Remember when they had the whole display in front of the Red House and all kind of thing, and lie down on the ground and all kind of. So that is what he's referencing. In other words, to say that perhaps if these young persons had been killed in Westmoreland or Maraval or somewhere there, that there might have been outrage from certain sectors of the society, the business community, probably DOMA, TTMA, and the like. But vexed because these entities aren't speaking out, and there is no call for Heinz to go, and there is no outrage, no protest coming from the upper echelons of society because, because of the perceived backstory or whatever the case is. Really? So that's who you want protest from? That is who you want outrage from? So the rest of the country. You don't want protest, you don't want outrage from them. You only want it from the business community because you figure that, as you all like to make the claim, the narrative, that the government is in the back pocket of the 1%. And that if it is the 1% and the business community get up and make a whole noise, that somehow that would cause Dr. Rowley to remove Mr. Hines. That's how it works. So the voices of the rest of us don't matter. We don't want outrage from the rest of us. What's all you're doing to fix that? Dr. Rowley wrote to the leader of the opposition, inviting the opposition to come. Let's have a discussion. And all they keep saying, that's all they want to meet, and you all want to collaborate to deal with crime. Never mind the fact that all they're claiming that you all support so much legislation, but you're supporting nothing. There's only, again, when there's outrage, they're talking about it. See, they put a whole list of different types of legislation they claim they supported. Yeah, but you supported it when you were brought under the gun. FATCA, they didn't want to support FATCA, but they have that on the list. You see, not everybody born last week, not everybody is in this country is of the waterfront ilk, who don't have a clue as to what is going on and just supporting blindly. Some of us, our memory is good, and we don't need ginkgo and nothing else to remember these things, right? In 2016, I think it was, when the FATCA bill came out, remember, they didn't want to support it. The issue was, now remember, since 2013, when they were in office, this FATCA bill came and whatnot. That's when the US would have changed their laws and made it a little more stringent with respect to their citizens and those persons who have the privilege, if you want to call it that, to live and work in the US via green cards and whatever other residency status. That wherever in the world these persons are located, any monies that they have, any investments that they have, that Uncle Sam want a piece, right? Because in the US, they're taxing everything. And Uncle Sam say, you can't leave the jurisdiction of the US and go somewhere else and make money, invest money, and think you could get away. No, you will pay your tax. And so we are bringing this law and putting it in place that wherever in any country in the world that we have relationships with, banking relationships in particular, where our banks serve as intermediary banks for these countries, we will make it so that if it is that you are now compelled to report to us, if any of our citizens have any business, financial dealings in your country, you are obligated to report it to us, the IRS, so that we know how to operate and how to deal with them. And failure to do so, we will restrict our banks from serving as intermediary banks, and we make it difficult for you to engage in international trade. So is do or don't, do or die. Since 2013, right? They had that. And they dragged their foot and, When I came under this Keith Rowley administration, time to pass the law. Now they passed certain parts of it and so on. There was one part of that legislation they had issues with called the reciprocity clause, which stated that in the same way the US could make demands on, in this case, Trinidad and Tobago, to provide information about their citizens living in this country, who may not necessarily be living in this country, but who have any kind of holdings, assets in Trinidad and Tobago, that you are required to report it to the IRS. The reciprocity clause said, if all you do that for us, we'll do it for you. So you want to get information about your citizens in the US or who own property in the US for tax purposes, no problem. One hand car clap, do for do, right? So they didn't want to support that. They jump up and say they opposed to that. Now, never mind the fact, the PNM administration that came in 2015, there were two options. When the legislation came before the People's Partnership in 2013, there were two options. I can't remember exactly. One involved the reciprocity clause and so on. I can't remember how the other one worked. But the other one was a little more onerous to execute. And it was the People's Partnership, led by Kamala Persad-Bissessar, that chose the option with the reciprocity clause. They had no problems with it then because they were in office. And they tell themselves, well, okay, well, if the US asks for information, no problem. We in government, and we expect to be in government till thy kingdom come, because this is the best government ever that this country has seen. Why? Because we give out some laptops. We open some new standpipe. We open a couple of community centers. We giving out baby grant, 500 a month to make child. We giving out all manner of handouts. And so, yes, they thought they would have been in office forever, and they had no problems then. But when they got voted out after one term, all of a sudden they had a problem with the very same choice that they made. The reciprocity clause. Kamala jump up and say, this government wicked, and they're going to use the reciprocity clause to go and dig up to get information on UNC supporters and financiers of the UNC. That was the claim. That's why they didn't want to support FATCA. And they held off on that. But remember, this particular legislation, because it has implications from a constitutional standpoint, because it means that the private information of citizens could be shared, they needed a majority. The government, the PNM government, needed I think it was a 3/5 or 2/3 majority. I can't remember which one. And they, of course, required the support of the opposition. There was no getting around it. There was no removal of the 2/3 or whatever. They had to get the opposition support. And they dragged their foot onto the business community, and all of them come out and tell them, look, the banking sector say, hey, well, they're causing problems to us, you know. You all see what is at risk. If all they don't support this legislation and the US decides that they're going to blacklist, it's going to cause problems when we need to remit funds, when people using the credit card and we need to remit funds to the intermediary banks to settle all of these remittances. There's problems when it is people have to send money for their children abroad to go to a university and all these different things. Well, they're causing problems. You all need to support. That is how come they came to the table and support. It wasn't because they knew it was good legislation. They had no other choice because several sectors of society called them out on their nonsense. And they reluctantly came to the parliament and supported it. So when I hear them now putting up this list and claiming, yes, we supported FATCA and we support. No. The only reason why you all supported the bill amendment bill in the first instance, not in the second, in the first one, was because the man that they wanted as Commissioner of Police over Gary Griffith, one Deodat Dulal Chan, right? When he came out and begged and pleaded on national TV for the opposition to support the bail amendment bill. They weren't supporting it before, but as soon as Dulal Chan come out and say, gosh, because I think he was a deputy commissioner of police at the time or whatever it is. When he had a press conference, or they had some press conference, and he said it, then they said, well, all right, well, if the police want it, no problem. We will accede to the request. But otherwise, they weren't going to support it. Second time around, they say, no, we ain't supporting it, because when we look at the amount of the amount of people who are arrested under this, it's reading like a binary card, 01100201111. That's money level. See, for that, because of the statistics, we want data, and the data not showing that this legislation working. So if it's not working, all right. So we're only looking at the punitive impact of the law. We're not looking at the deterrent impact. To say that, well, all right, maybe. So they only looking to see how many people were arrested and were denied bail under this particular legislation, right? But where was the statistics to show how many people this law was deterring from engaging in crime because they didn't want to get caught and end up behind bars for 120 days without bail? They didn't have those statistics. They didn't take that factor that into consideration, right? Yeah, we only look at who get locked up, and there's only a few people, so it ain't making sense. Let's not support it. Today, we have persons who are out on bail for murder, thanks to Gianti and Annan. Man, alleged to have committed murder, get bail, and then is caught in a house with high-powered guns, rifles, and all kind of ammunition and so on. Comes before the court on this matter. And when under the bail amendment bill, this individual would have been denied bail in the first instance for 120 days. You're on bail, just imagine, you're out on bail for murder. You'll get caught in a house with ammunition and guns. Where's going to do that? You know you get bail for that too? Thanks to them. Yeah, thanks to them, not thanks to the PNM. So when they like to talk about P on them, that stupidness, when the supporters of the party like to talk that nonsense. Right now, we have a man who has a propensity to commit crime, is before the court on murder charges and before the court on charges of gun and ammunition possession, and he out on bail. He out on bail. And that making sense to them. Munilal ain't gonna call for outrage for that. You don't want outrage for that, Munilal. Why? Because the call for outrage for that puts the spotlight on you and the other members of the opposition and former members of the government of which you are a part. Sitting senators who always run in before the court to create opportunities for criminals because like they find it they have enough work. They don't have enough crime. You know why? Why are you not hearing outrage from the Law Association on these killings? Why are you not hearing any outrage from any other legal fraternity on these killings? You know why? Because the more crime it has, the more money they could make. We've always heard it said that crime is a business, right? And now it's booming for these attorneys. That is why, as we said before, some of them when they go to the court, right? A handful, they have 5-6 matters on the same day, in the same hall of justice or wherever it is. They know what to do, right? None of the matters could proceed. All they could beg the court is to let the matters stand down. Why? Because it's too much. They don't have control over the docket and the rostering of matters, so that when it is that they find themselves, they have the amount of clients they want. Because they're not going to turn down clients. Every time somebody comes to, they need a lawyer. It's money. Every consultation is money. So the legal profession has now become a money-making business. Well, it was always so. So that is the overriding motive for a lot of people who decide to go into the legal profession. Yeah, nothing to do it. Yes, well, you know, because I want to be a defender of the law. Miss me with ABS. How much money you could make. Yeah? Plenty lawyers all over the place. And as if things ain't bad enough. Like you have a UNC caucus that is sit down and say, well, what law we could go and tinker with now? What we could go and beg the court? What other laws we have for which bail is not available that we could go and beg the court to make it a bailable offense? So we could have more clients. So even when they lock up, we could imagine a man who should be sitting behind bars until his case is called for murder. He could now call a lawyer, pay this lawyer to go before the court, to petition the court for you to get bail. And the court given bail. Remember the nonsense they came and told us? Well, even though bail is available, it doesn't mean necessarily that they will get it. It is up to the judicial officer who is hearing the matter. How the hell this man get bail? All right, fine. Or let's say innocent until proven guilty, the presumption of innocence. So he get bail for the murder. But all you find the man just a few weeks after he got bail for murder, find him in a house with guns. And not one gun. It's not a pellet gun. It's not a caps gun. We're talking serious guns here. In a house with a gun. You come before the court. Once upon a time when they used to ask about tracing, right? Do some tracing. Let's see what is this man's criminal background before the court decide to give him bail. So when it is he came before the court to seek bail for being held with arms and ammunition, they didn't do tracing to see that this man is out on bail for murder. That wasn't done, or we don't do that again. We stopped doing that. But Munilal ain't gonna call for no outrage for that. No, he ain't calling for outrage for that at all, because who knows, maybe the lawyer that represented this man is probably a UNC supporter. Wouldn't be surprised in the least. Because almost every time you see some kind of case like that, when you read the names of the lawyers, it's the same ones, and they come in from the same camp. That's what they like to do. But he ain't gonna call for outrage for that. That contributed to what happened in the heights of Guanapo with the death of these 4 young children. Right? Arms and ammunition. They weren't stabbed. They weren't poisoned. They weren't bludgeoned to death with a baseball bat or a 2x4. They were shot. And when it is that you have this man, but you see, where is the outrage when it is that you had a candidate for local government that was screened by the UNC and was seen to be a favorite at the time? Is found 2 o'clock in the morning in a bar with a gun, an illegal firearm. You wasn't calling for outrage for that, Manila. Huh? Where was your call for outrage for that? Because if it is, fortunately, there were police officers, 2 unarmed, 2 plainclothes off-duty officers in the bar at the time. But if they weren't there that night, Mr. Swift would still be walking around with his piece. Right? To do what? What you plan to do with that? Just have it just for so, as a souvenir? Let's say, look, I have a gun. Or how many persons get put on because of that gun? How many persons have been robbed with that gun? Do we know? Don't know, but you ain't gonna call for outrage for that. Imagine we have a man who holds the position of opposition chief whip in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago before the court. $1 million bail for fraud and misbehavior in public office. You ain't gonna call for outrage for that. That is not an insult. That is not I'm lost for words with respect to that. Right? Man who's before the court, $1 million bail. Not 200,000, $1 million bail. For defrauding, attempting to defraud the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Always I talk about the government this and the government that. Right? But he holding the position of opposition chief whip. He holding press conference to accuse the government of all manner of things. And he before the court. If that is not an embarrassment to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, I don't know what is. It is an affront to the citizens of this country. But he ain't gonna call for outrage for that. He's not outraged that there is no outrage for that. That you have another member of his side who is currently under police investigation for human trafficking, prostitution, and other things. And he's still sitting down in the parliament. You all knew about these things prior to selecting him as a candidate, but you went ahead anyway. And when it is that the questions were posed to the leader of the opposition on nomination day, because there was a rumor going around that the individual had been replaced, she said, I have fullest confidence in all of my candidates. Fullest confidence. Yeah, she had full confidence in every member of her cabinet too. How many of them now? Subject of police investigation. How many of them did she have to fire? But there's no outrage for that. Right? That you have another one fired from 2 public utilities companies of gross misbehavior. A possible future minister. He's not outraged that there is no outrage on that. But have outrage here for that. Right? But the rest of the society, why you're not outraged at the business community is not holding the UNC to book for that nonsense. The embarrassment that you have Anil Roberts, a man like he, in the Senate, honorable, right? Sitting in the Senate every day, doing a live. I'm going to play one for you just now. I had to play that. Right? Bubbles and coffee or Douglas politics. Always has some kind of nastiness to say. Disgusting individual. I wouldn't even call him a human being. But they have he as the assistant coach for the national swimming team. You're not outraged over that, Munilal. That this filthy-mouthed piece of gutter trash every day doing live, making all kinds of some of the most nasty insinuations, accuse the former president of being a lesbian and making appointments based on pom-pom politics. He has no shame, no concern to come on social media and make these claims. And it is shared by the shameless members and supporters of their party who sharing that kind of thing thousands of times. Because they're proud of that kind of filth. It's reflective of their mind. But no outrage. He ain't calling for no outrage from that. That members of the business community and so on not outraged. That is the trash that they have sitting in the Senate. A man who will turn his back on the president during a speech in the ceremonial opening of Parliament. That's the kind of example that he's setting. You're not concerned, Munira, you're not outraged that there was no serious level of outrage with respect to that despicable behavior from Anil Roberts. You're not outraged about that. No, but you're outraged because you find there is no outrage over this killing. 2012, Easter weekend, over 12 persons murdered under Kamla Prasad Bisesa. Did you call for outrage then? That wasn't thing to be outraged about. No. Attorney General had to be fired for attempted witness tampering. You didn't call for outrage. You weren't outraged about those things. You weren't outraged over the fact that one of your colleagues is alleged to have paid $135,000 to your political leader and he can't remember what he gave her that money for. And up to now, 3 years later, we have no idea what is happening with that matter. We don't know if there's a police investigation into the matter. And you have this man stepping around like a peacock, proud like a peacock, that he could come on a platform and get on like a wajang and a jamet, right? Because he just cool. 3 years later, we don't know what is going on with that. You're not outraged over that fact, Munilal, but you're outraged. Yeah, convenient outrage. Blasted hypocrite. Yeah, but you all, yeah, that's the shadow Minister of National Security. Have plenty to say about Mr. Hines. But when you were Minister of Housing and Public Money, all of a sudden, all you're concerned about public money and how it is being spent. But when public money was being spent, $24,000 a month or $27,000 a month of taxpayers' money, while you have people in this country who were suffering too, and all of a sudden, all you know who's suffering. It had no poor people between 2010 and 2015. Nobody was struggling to make ends meet. Everybody was employed. It had no inflation back then. The cost of living was right up. Everybody was happy with that, right? Hence the reason you felt it was okay to spend $27,000 a month of taxpayers' money to lease a Range Rover with strobe lights so you could play Prime Minister. You ain't getting the opportunity to act. So you could feel like a Prime Minister because it's not you alone, it's not only Kamala riding around in Range Rover with police escort and strobe lights. $27,000 a month so Natasha could carry her child to the grocery and swimming lessons or whatever else. You weren't outraged that there was an outrage over that. And when it is there was finally outrage over it, you vex, or they putting your family at risk. What your family doing driving in that vehicle? That is taxpayers' money. Your ministry taking taxpayers' money to pay for that so that you could drive around like a lord. Yeah? Strobe lights and whatnot and sirens so you could clear the traffic because you figure you're a jefe. You want to pretend to be Prime Minister. You weren't outraged about that. Of course, the supporters of your party are nothing to say about that either. Anyway, I'm going to play the next one. You see, that dragon gas development hurting them in every crevice of their body. Every single crevice of their body is hurting them. They know how to respond. And again, the media in this country, the bacchanalists posing as journalists, every bloody time, they always had to be running to the same people for commentary. And a development like this, right? So I see last night the CNC3 interviewed Kevin Ramnarai, former Minister of Energy under Kamla Prasad Visesa, right? The minister who was not able to do what Stuart Chung and Keith Rowley has been able to do. For the 4 years, 3 months and 14 days that he was Minister of Energy, he was not able to do what Keith Rowley and Stuart Chung have been able to do in 9 months. 9 months. He wasn't able to do that. In 4 years, 3 months and 14 days. But they run into he to ask him for commentary on this development. You expect him to have anything good to say? Because this development is an indictment on him and the party of which he was the minister of, on the government rather, of which he was the minister of energy. So you going to say anything good? Well, the only thing he said of sense last night, and I'm sure the supporters of his party probably wouldn't have liked that, when he said that there is no need in the upcoming budget for the minister to increase the price of fuel or to reduce the price of fuel either. So all who calling on him but to reduce the price of fuel, you have Kevin Ramnarai, the former Minister of Energy, UNC Minister of Energy, is saying there is no need for the minister to increase or to lower or to reduce the cost. Leave it right where it is. That is what Kevin Ramnarai said. So all who hoping to hear in the budget next week Monday, the minister say that he's reducing because the price of fuel at the pump, which we know will not happen because the price of oil has now gone back up. Last night I saw it was between $90 and $94 West Texas Intermediate and Brent crude and so on. $90 and $94 thereabout respectively. So it's heading back in that direction, which means that the subsidy, unintended, will also be going up. So the government, notwithstanding the fact in the last budget would have indicated they would like to cap the budget, the subsidy at $1 billion, the fuel subsidy. It would, of course, it's been, teetering between 1.2 to 1.5. So as the price of oil goes up, the subsidy is also going to go up. Because remember, increase in the price of oil means an increase in the price of fuel, which we import. And if we are paying more for fuel, but the government keeps the price at the pumps the same, then the difference between what they are actually paying for fuel on the open market and what they're selling it at, the government will have to pick up that difference. So the more they pay for fuel, the price remains the same at the pump. Whatever is that increase, the government is going to take that up through the fuel subsidy. All right? So, and let me just put it there for the persons listening who are anti-PNM. I want to say, if we had the refinery, we wouldn't have to go through that. You're talking nonsense. Had we had the refinery, instead of importing fuel, and I don't know how many times you will see this, the government would have had to import oil. Because right now we are only producing 50 to 60,000 barrels of oil per day, and much of that 50 to 60,000 barrels of oil does not belong to the government of Trinidad and Tobago. It belongs to the energy companies like BP and whoever else, and Trinity and whoever else would have found this oil, and they will sell it. All we get from their portion is taxes and royalties. Only oil that belongs to us is whatever heritage finds and the farm to their own initiatives, and that out of their farm out leasing arrangement with people like AV Drilling and so on, right? But anything that BP and all of these other companies and Trinity and whoever else finds, all we get from that is taxes and royalties. Understand that. So even if we had the refinery, we would still be importing. So in order to refine the amount of fuel that we need for domestic production, and also to sell to the other countries that we are still selling to, and this is the part they don't talk about, that, Trinidad and Tobago now is an importer of fuel. Yes, but the fuel that we import is not just for our use. We import fuel and we sell to other Caribbean countries as well who do not have refineries and who do not have the wherewithal to bring in fuel. They don't have the facilities, the infrastructural facilities, and so on. So we import for us, and we also import to sell to other Caribbean countries, and we make US dollars there. We make a profit there too. So I just thought I would throw that in the mix. But I would mention that if we had the refinery, instead of buying refined fuel, we'd be buying oil at whatever the price is. So right now, we would have been buying barrels of oil, over 100,000 barrels of oil per day at $90 to $94 US per barrel. And the reason why the refinery had to be closed is because when you're spending 94 US per barrel, let's just say, use that as an example. You spend 94 US to buy 1 barrel of oil. And when you refine that barrel of oil and you sell the refined products, all you're getting from it is $80. So I spend $94 to buy this barrel of oil. But the outcome, the product, right? The byproduct of this barrel of oil, which is the diesel and the super and the regular, when I sell it, I'm making $80. So I'm losing $14 on every barrel of oil that I refine. But the UNC and the supporters telling you that was good business and you needed to continue to do that. And if the refinery was running, that making sense. That making sense to them. Do that. Import 100,000 barrels of oil, but for every barrel you import, you're losing money. With the final end product that you sell, you're losing money. The margin ain't making sense. Right? And they're saying, yeah, but we needed Petrochin and that thing, and Petrochin was profitable. But the people who supporting that nonsense wouldn't come and break it down to you and tell you the basics. We were losing money on every barrel of oil, and it just was not making sense. Which business does that? You losing money, and you say, yeah, I need to continue to run the business. You know why? Because I need to keep my workers employed. So you lose it. You're making no profit. So you just running a business to keep people employed. So what's the point? Who goes into a business and say, well, I just go in and open a business to create employment. I don't want any profits. I want to make losses. So whatever little caca I have saved in the bank, I want to use up that to fund the losses. And that makes good economic sense. But they don't talk that talk. They don't talk that talk. No, Petrochin, and Rowley say, we are not closing down Petrochin, and he closed down Petrochin, and it's because of Petrochin that we have the shortage and we have the Forex problem now. Really? Really? When they were buying 100,000 barrels of oil per day, how were they paying for that 100,000 barrels? What were they paying? What currency were they using to pay for it? TT? Bolivars? Rupees? What currency were they using to pay for the 100,000 barrels of oil per day? Talk that talk. For all of them who want to talk this nonsense now, what if the refinery was up and running, we would have been earning foreign exchange. Yeah, you're earning the foreign exchange, and then what? How are we earning the foreign exchange? We buy the oil, we refine it. Okay, it's refined. What happens after that? How are we making foreign exchange from this refined product? You sell it. Who are we selling it to? The same Caribbean territories that we're selling it to today when we bring it in. But if we're making a loss, that making sense? And when we get the US from them, it's US we had to pay for the oil with. Can't pay for it with nothing else. So foreign exchange coming in, and as fast as it reaching, it going back out to pay for this 100,000 barrels of oil per day. And the only way that issue matter could have been solved is if it is we found more oil. So if it is we could have satisfied the demand and the needs for throughput in the refinery from local production, there would be no need to import oil. If Petrotrin, through its own efforts and that of the Farm Out program, could have produced 100,000 plus barrels of oil per day in Trinidad and Tobago within our jurisdiction, there would be no need for us to import, to buy oil from the US or whoever we were buying it from. And that way, we would have been able to keep the US. But since oil production has been falling for years because we have mature fields, and even though we have unexplored acreage, to drill a well is expensive. There needs to be incentives. And unfortunately, the companies that are inclined to go and drill, the kind of incentives that they want is not to the benefit of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago or in other territories where they operate. I will digress a little bit, but I'm coming back just now to that club. What it linked. We're going to talk about the dragon gas. So I'm making the point. So we see in Guyana, I make that point. Let me just touch on that quickly, right? Let me see if I get this here. Oh boy. So let me just get this here. So in Guyana, right? So congratulations to the Guyana Warriors, Amazon Warriors. They finally, after on the 6th try, they finally win a title. Right? Not much to the chagrin of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I think that victory may have been a little more palatable to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago if certain members of the Guyanese society were not so disrespectful over the last month and some. But some of the signage that we see in about they have oil and is no longer chicken curry versus curry chicken, is non-oil, is oil versus no oil, and all kind of disrespect, right? Bowen, what's his name? Pollard and all this kind of thing. Camaraderie, we're playing a game and okay, we keep it clean, all kind of fight and all kind of stupidness. All of that nonsense, which made it more difficult for a lot of citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who follow the cricket to accept the result of that match, right? What it is, it's over. Congratulations to them. But when we look at to me, this seeming antagonistic, well, it's not a relationship, antagonistic posturing of the Vice President of Guyana, Bharat Jagdeo, towards Dr. Rowley within recent times. And one wonders what could be the cause of that. And, I've heard a lot of speculations and suggestions as to what it could be. This is just my personal view, right? They want to focus on oil. They have oil now, and they have oil, and great, wonderful, good for oil. Let me get this here. Yeah. So they figure they're better than everybody else now because they have oil. We had oil too once upon a time. Well, they had the same oil when we had oil. This oil didn't just grow overnight in Guyana. But for years, the oil was there, just that they didn't have the resources and the wherewithal to locate it. Now that they have, it's still not redundant to the benefit of the citizens of Guyana, based on the incentives that have been offered by the government of Guyana to these energy companies to come and drill and find oil. And one would notice a stark and marked similarity between how the current Guyanese government is managing their energy sector in terms of incentives and what the People's Partnership would have done between 2010 to 2015, where we've heard numerous occasions that some of these incentives would have resulted in the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago having to forfeit taxes on the sale of our energy patrimony until 2024. We're still in 2023, so we still have some ways to go. Few months, yes? Don't know if it was probably until the whole of 2024. That's not. Let me get this here. Just bear with me for 1 second. Right. So I'm reading an article here from Kaita News Online. It's taking long to load. I don't know why. Ah, boy. Wait a minute. Come on. Quick. I don't have 1 minute. Right. This is an article from Kaita News, which is a Guyanese publication dated September 25th, 2023, and it reads, ExxonMobil recovers US $4 billion in costs, while Guyana collects $658 million US in the first half of 2023. So for the first 6 months of 2023, ExxonMobil collected $4 billion US from the sale of oil that they would have gotten in Guyana, while the government and the people of Guyana got US $658 million. Let that sink in for a moment. $4 billion for Exxon, $658 million, less than $1 billion. Sounds familiar? The very same strategy employed by the Guyanese government with respect to the exploitation of their oil wealth for the benefit of the citizens of Guyana. It seems that it is the principals of Exxon who are benefiting. $4 billion in 6 months versus $658 million. Why? The same thing they're telling them. And this is ExxonMobil recovers US $4 billion in costs. So they're telling me, what? Come and spend all your money. Spend all your money, drill, find oil. Wherever all you spend to find the oil, write it off. Recover it. When all you sell the oil, don't pay us nothing until all you make back all your money. Same thing the UNC said under Kamla. Come, drill, find oil, find gas, and wherever money all you spend to find that oil and gas, keep it until all you recover what all you spend. And then after that, we got talk. So until 2024, man, all you drill. Drill like all you going mad. Drill like drilling going out of style. Find oil, find gas, sell it. Don't pay us one blasted cent until all you recover every penny all you spend to drill. Same thing. So maybe that is why Mr. Jagdeo have an issue with Keith Rowley, because you have a fella by the name of Glenn Lal who keep doing lies and exposing, doing comparisons between how Keith Rowley is managing our aging energy sector versus how the Guyanese government is managing their burgeoning energy sector, right? They're the newest kids in the town. Talk about them joining OPEC because they're big, they're real oil, more oil than Trinidad and Tobago ever had. Right? We never had the kind of reserves that they are led to have. Never had that. I'm talking about producing 750,000 barrels of oil per day in the next couple of years or so. At our best, we were probably at maybe 250,000 in our heyday. In our heyday, nothing close to 750 million. So we never had oil like them. So they reach. But look at that. 4 billion Exxon in 6 months. And the people of Guyana, 658 million US. Similar to how the UNC operated, the People's Partnership operated when they were in office. But Keith Rowley come and say, hey, Kamla do that. That will not sit well with me. So you know what? We need to come back to the negotiating table. And all I need to do better than that. Because I am not prepared to allow you all to sell our oil and sell our gas like all yourself. And then we get nothing. And my government had to struggle to find revenue elsewhere. Because when all they finish now, and these wells and all they make all your money, and then the well and them dry up, all they come in, but nothing else, we go on there, and we get nothing. That was their strategy. That is how they govern, and they want to think that is the best way to run the energy sector. Right? That was the best way to run it. So maybe the problem that Mr. Jagdeo had with Dr. Rowley is that the way Rowley is managing the energy sector in Trinidad and Tobago, never mind the fact that it is not as blooming as it once was, that with the little that we still have, it is being managed better than the plenty they have. And it is creating now a platform by which people like Glenn Lal could make comparison to tell the people of Guyana, look what Rowley doing. Look how Rowley, the same thing when Bharat Jagdeo and them telling me they cannot reopen the negotiations and they can't renegotiate the contracts. Eh? They can't renegotiate the contracts. Yeah. So we have to take what we get. But Keith Rowley, just across the pond, said, we need to renegotiate. Ole, come. Mm-mm. Ole, want to come? I will come to Ole, but we will have a discussion. This will not fly. Right? And so Glenn Lal now making comparison, and people in Guyana saying, but look how Rowley doing. Rowley doing it. Barajak, there was that. Rowley's a thorn in his side. Yeah? So it is in their best interest to have the UNC. So when the UNC doing the same thing that they're doing, you can say, well, look, this is the best cause because look at Trinidad. Trinidad is the next, well, other than us, Trinidad is the next, the only other CARICOM country that dealing in oil and gas in the way that we are. And they're doing the same thing. So why are you all criticizing us for doing this? It's the same strategies and the same incentives that Trinidad are offering, but that is not what is happening now. It is not the same incentives and strategies being used by this administration. So this administration, even though we don't have as much oil and gas as they have, well, they started work on the gas side yet, is managing it in a much better way that shows up that government. And the, well, I don't want to say incompetence, but I will leave that for Glenn Lal. Right? But what Dr. Rowley is doing doesn't bode well for them. Chalk and cheese. And you can imagine, you say, well, if Trinidad had the kind of oil that Guyana had under Keith Rowley, Stuart Young,